some more information as to what the village is considering doing. And then also to get input from the residents. We're going to try to, have this go somewhat smoothly here. We're going to have some discussion by the mayor and the engineer, Brian Mader, and anyone else who is necessary. And then we'll open it up to questions of the residents. And we're going to ask that, your comments obviously stay respectful, even if you, are very adamant about your position. And that, we keep it down to, a couple of minutes so that we're not here all night, but everybody's going to get an opportunity to say their piece if they want. And that's why we're here. I did promise, probably a year ago that prior to any discussion of doing this in Orangewood, that we would have a meeting. Obviously, we weren't expecting it to be by Zoom, but we do want to go ahead and, obviously the residents' opinions are important here. So that's what the purpose of tonight is. I'm going to probably have the mayor start off and just give an introduction on the project. What we're looking at here. I know that most of you know that there's some money that's left over from the trails that went around the village, and we're looking to add a little bit to go ahead and do a one-sided trail through Orangewood. But I'm not going to get into the weeds of that right now. I'll let the mayor do that. So, Mayor, if you want to go ahead and give the overview of the project here and answer anything.
I sure do. Thank you, Brandon. Please bear with me a little bit. This is a little nerve-wracking that I'm talking to 67 of my friends and neighbors that I cannot see any of you. So it feels a little odd for me to be talking to myself. I want to remind you all that when it's time to ask questions, if you're on Zoom, use the raise hand feature. And if you're on a phone, *9. I'll say that again near the end. I also want to take advantage of having so many of you here to explain to you that last Saturday and Sunday early morning phone calls was not from Orange Village. That was a county error. It was human error. They have apologized. It affected thousands of people, not just us. Please stay connected to Orange Village's code red so we can talk to you. We will never call you in the middle of the night unless you have to evacuate. Okay. Questions about the voting process were sent to me. The residents of Orangewood are not voting on this decision. The members of council will be voting on this decision, but not until after they've heard from everyone. I have a very long history with trails in the village, going back to the early 90s, maybe the late 80s. And so we never seem to get tired of talking about sidewalks/trails in Orange Village. So the conversation continues. In the early 90s, there was a petition that went around to get trails on one side of all the main streets like you see today. But at that time, it got turned into a question of concrete sidewalks on both sides of every single street throughout the village via assessment on the homeowners. Obviously, that was not the right deal. Then there was a time when we had a lot of our main roads, Emory, Lander, Harvard, part of Harvard, and Miles, using federal funds. They will, the federal agencies will give you money to put in a pedestrian walkway, only that we would have had 3 million out of the 4.3 estimated million price tag. Only they require the path to be 10 feet wide. So obviously that's not the right deal for Orange Village either. I know you're really only interested in the Orangewood, but I'll get to there in a second. So when in the 2010s, when Pinecrest development started and we were negotiating with them, Brandon had what I thought was a very brilliant suggestion, only when Brandon suggests it to me, it sounds more like an instruction. And he suggested that I talk to the developers about funding a trail. The connection was because there is one thing, I've been your mayor, I'm in my 26th year, and I was your tax administrator for a number of years before that. There is one continual constant thread through Orange Village on every single project, and that's traffic. Everyone is concerned about traffic. And that was very heightened during the Pinecrest decision. And so there was a nexus between that traffic and safety concerns and a safe way to get to Pinecrest. So they agreed to fund $5 million worth of trails. Forgive me for looking down. I don't want to miss anything. I have a lot of facts to convey and I'm looking at notes. So of the $5 million, we were able to do all the trails that you have seen, and we have $410,117.12 left. Now let's talk about Orangewood. I have been going to your Orangewood homeowners meetings for 25 plus years. I've been going to your picnics every year. Our police chief is contacted multiple times during the year, as am I. The one continual concern in the Orangewood development has been for all that time is safety, whether it's cars going through stop signs, not stopping, going too fast, going too slow. People tell us to put in speed bumps, put in more signs, take out signs, close roads. I must drive through Orangewood with the service director and or the police chief a couple times a year to look at these suggestions, look at these situations, and do whatever we can. This proposal is partly responsive to that. In addition, it's responsive to the fact that Orangewood residents have for many decades wanted, not everybody, clearly, we know there are some of you who don't want it, and we can agree that that's your position and that should stay that way. But we've had many, many requests for them, and we've had a couple false attempts at trying to get sidewalks into Orangewood. Councilman Klein reminds me that even before my time around here, he was involved in an initiative for sidewalks in Orangewood. So this is not new. The Orangewood residents have been consistent and clear about traffic and safety concerns for decades. So the other times when we've tried, those attempts failed because of financing or costs, but they would all been assessment projects. The residents would have had to pay, and there were legal situations with those deals. It just failed every time. So the proposal before council tonight is a culmination of years of hearing about wanting sidewalks in Orangewood and hearing about safety concerns in Orangewood. So I'm going to lay out the facts just objectively. I'm also going to respond and hopefully clear up some of the misinformation that I've seen passed around on flyers. So what are the facts in the proposal before council? I'm going to also try to answer questions that were submitted to me ahead of tonight. And at the end, or if I haven't answered a question sufficiently, or we need more legal input or more engineering expertise, they are here and we will get into the details. I'm just going to give an overview of what's before council. The village is proposing a 5-foot wide path on the east and south sides coming from Harvard to Lander. This stretch crosses over 34 parcels, of which 12 of the parcels are side yards. The 34 parcels does not include the 2 entrances, which are Orangewood Homeowners Association property, and we will be asking the Orangewood Homeowners Association to grant permanent easement at the Harvard Road entrance, in which case we will put the trail behind the landscaping that both Orangewood and Orange Village invested in many years ago to beautify that entrance. If we don't have an easement from the homeowners association and we go forward with the project, that land, all those bushes and trees would get lost. So if we want to go behind it, but everywhere else, the preliminary design, the placement of the trail is in the right of way. It's going to be placed approximately 5 foot off the back of the curb. Now, I've spoken to a few of you who have concerns, and some of you might be eligible to have it scooted a little bit away, but basically the plan is to go 5 foot from the edge of the curb. This will provide plenty of room for placement of leaves, brush, trash, and recycle containers, and it will avoid most of the small landscaping areas around mailboxes. Wherever we avoid landscaping and other structures. Sorry. Okay, and the topography of the trail will be, a placement of the trail will create flatter slopes for the width of the path. Consideration is always given to not create any excessive grading that is difficult to maintain or low areas that will create ponding water. Now, when we cross a driveway, we also most of the time, if it's necessary in order to ensure the grade and ensure the match up to the trail, we replace the aprons. Now, this right-of-way that I mentioned, this trail is preliminarily planned to go only in the right-of-way. Now, what's a right-of-way? The right-of-way is a certain amount of property that's measured from the center line of the street. Again, our law director and our engineer can tell you the exact number of feet. They can tell you the revised code section. But for layman's purposes, let me just explain now that the right-of-way comes from the middle of the street to about 15 feet on your property. Brian, shake your head, 15 feet? That 15 feet is a right-of-way, and I know some of you feel it's your front yard. It is your front yard. You do maintain it, you do take care of it. But a right-of-way is legally within the control of a municipality. And that right-of-way is for public use amenities. We have our gas lines in there, we have our water lines in there, we have street lights in there, we have fire hydrants in there, we have anything that becomes a public amenity for the whole community. So so some people feel that the people that don't live on the street shouldn't have a say in this. This right-of-way along Orangewood it's a dedicated street and it's for the benefit of all. If anybody needs us to, for grading purposes or to go on your property, we would have a temporary easement. There'll be no permanent easements needed except from the homeowners association. A permanent easement allows the village contractor temporary access onto your property to perform the designated work on the trails outside of the right-of-way. Work would include regrading a portion of the lawn area or replacement of portions of your driveway outside of the right-of-way. At the completion of the project, the temporary easement goes away. Now, we know that everybody's concerned about landscaping and sprinklers and things like that. We don't come in, take everything down, and leave it a mess. We take care of our residents. For those of you who this would be across, if council votes to proceed, you have my word that Bob Zugan, our service director, Brian Mader, our engineer, or myself, we will talk to you one-on-one. We will address what your particular issues and concerns are. We will have an allowance in the budget for sprinkler systems, not redesigning. We're not doing major redesigns of systems, but to rehook up heads and to replace shrubs and bushes. There's very, very little vegetation or landscaping in the way. It's been staked out. You can see that. And we've done this with a few hundred houses and we've really resolved, I don't hear any complaints from anyone. The liability has been asked a lot, and this is something the law director can add on to, but I need to say something. I needed to say this earlier on. We are not talking about a sidewalk. We are talking about a recreational trail. The distinction is a legal distinction. There is a Ohio Revised Code section that a lawyer can say exactly which code section that defines a recreational trail. A recreational trail is further by ordinance of Orange Village under the responsibility of the village. It will be our maintenance issue, our repair issue, and that's not like in Orange Hill or Orange Tree where they have sidewalks. If a sidewalk cracks, they are responsible. But because this will be a recreational trail and there's a legal, story behind that, the village is assuming responsibility for it going forward. However, we have not decided what to do in the winter time yet. We have saved enough money to buy a machinery to plow in the snow when we're ready to make a commitment to do so. We're watching it. We're watching the use. We're watching service directors trying equipment out, talking to other communities. As of now, we need to consider it a 10-month trail, a 3.5 season trail. That's the status for the near term. But we will have the money if we change that. Okay, bear with me. I find my place. Okay, that's landscaping, sprinklers. And again, we will talk one-on-one to those who are affected. All right. Did I say there are 219 parcels in Orangewood? Parcels that are being crossed are 34. 12 are side yards, and there are 25 drive aprons on 24 different parcels. In 2014, in our continuing discussions about trails and sidewalks in the village of Orange, it was part of a community survey we took. And in the community survey, things have changed over the decades. The demographics in the sense of community and the sense of not being quite as rural as we might have once felt we were. And in 2014, we took a community survey, and the people that responded, and it was a statistically reliable sample, said 87% wanted trails throughout the village. Now, I know there's a bunch of you going, but it wasn't on their property. When it was on their property, the question was further refined. The response was 67% wanted it. As of tonight, I have received 57 responses, and I thank you all. I appreciate everyone's input. For the people I didn't respond to, I got it, and I thank you. Of those 57 responses, 52 were yes, and 6 were no, but we also had 6 additional names on a petition. So there were 12 no's, 57 yeses. Of the 57 yeses, 5 are people that it crosses across their property. And of the 12 no's, all 12 have it across their property. I've spoken directly about this with many of the people opposed, and I hope I've satisfied some of their concerns. I know I can't change. I know I'm not changing anyone's mind, but let me also review that I've answered the submitted questions. Why do we need this trail? Well, I think I explained that under the safety category. The justification of having the trail on the east and the south side, that's a good question. And many of you have pointed out to me that there are 6 other roads that feed into the south side, while there are only 3 on the north side. Well, on the south side, those roads feed into most of the houses in Orangewood. And therefore, those children on those streets can get to the trail on the south side of the road without having to cross the busier Orangewood Drive. Also, on the north side, the streets that intersect with Orangewood have intersections, stop signs and intersections. That plus, there's far fewer houses on the south and east side, fewer driveways, and the light poles are on the north side, and those are objects that you can't work around easily. What if, do you have liability? I meant to get into that when I was talking about earlier, but the liability is taken away from the homeowner by virtue of the fact that it is a recreational trail versus a sidewalk. I would be kidding you if I didn't say, and I know there's lawyers on here that are saying anybody can sue anybody. If they walk on the street and fall on your property, they can sue you then too. You are not liable, and I'll have the law director expound on this. You are not liable for, I mean, that doesn't mean they won't sue you, but you're not liable for any damages unless you intentionally did something. If you put a barrier or an obstacle course there, or did something that impeded the safe. Steve, did I adequately address that?
Yeah, you did a good job. I think anybody who has concerns about that ought to talk to their insurance carrier about the issue And they can probably put you at ease that, yes, you would be defended if you were named in a lawsuit. And yes, there would be no liability. What are the risks that somebody's going to fall in your specific location? I don't know. But that's why we all carry insurance.
Mr. Law Director, would you also at this point embellish my right-of-way discussion if there's anything else to say?
Sure. The village, when a street is platted in a municipality, and a village is a municipality, the village obtains the fee interest in the property. And so technically the village owns the area of the right of way in the subdivisions. So the trails are actually being located on village property, even though property owners maintain the grass that's currently in that location.
And finally, a lot of you have raised up not finally, a couple more things. A lot of you have raised the issue of property values. I don't think we can debate that, and I don't think we can resolve that. Obviously, if you're opposed to them, it brings the value down in your mind. If you're for them, it brings the value up. I can tell you over the years, I've been sent a lot of information. Even in this most recent round, a couple of you residents sent me things, facts about housing values. Most of the ones say it goes up, but I believe you if you think it goes down. And then the other question is the 400,000 we have left over. Why don't we use that somewhere else? Why don't we use that on Pike or Jackson? And I will tell you that the residents on Pike or Jackson, I'm sure not unanimously, I'm sure not 100%, but I know the bulk majority of those would want it as well. And I hope someday we can do that. But 400,000 wouldn't get anywhere near finishing any of those streets. And we get 219 residents with access to the trails in Orangewood Drive, where the others might pick up 10 or 15 homes at much greater cost. So it's also, maximizing the dollar. Also, the people west of Brainerd on Emery would like to have the trail. Let me just make sure Brandon, anybody else was it? Oh, I wanted to tell you that in the number of responses I said that I got many more, but I only counted spouses as one. If two people, in fact, in one case, 3 people wrote me from the same address, that counted as one response. I think I've covered everything. I hoped to, but we're available to continue answering any questions. Anybody on the panel want to tell me if I missed any category?
Well, Mayor, why don't we do this, just because I don't know if I formally introduced everybody that's on the panel, but just so everybody knows, available for comments are, you have the service director, Bob Zugan, you have the village engineer, Brian Mader, and the law director, Steve Byron. Before we go to questions, and just when we do questions, everybody has that little, there's a little hand, I believe, that you could go ahead and raise in your Zoom app. And I think that's the best way to do it. And I'd ask for everybody to, when we do call on you, to state your name and your address, so we know who you are and where you live. And we'll do that in a second, as opposed to doing the Q&A box at top, unless you're not able to speak. Yes, Mayor?
I'm told I misspoke. It's 219 residences, buildings, homes, not people. 219 structures.
So Brian, or before we go to questions, Brian, Bob, or Steve, do either of you have any comments that you want to add? Okay, I don't think so. So why don't we start, and let's start and see if anybody has questions. There's somebody, I believe, let's see here. Ron has had his hand up. Anna, if you're able to unmute that, we can start there.
Can I ask Anna, if somebody goes to the webpage, will they get the right link for here? I have a couple people texting me that they can't get in.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second.
As far as I know, yes.
Okay.
That-
Go to the website.
Yes.
All
Okay,
right. Anna, do you want to unmute them or do you want me to?
I thought I brought him in.
How do you unmute Ron? Ron, are you
no.
there? Okay, could you
I'm
state your name and
there.
address?
I'm here.
Thank you.
Ron Cluchin, 4059 Orangewood. I'm one of the residents that have the path on my property. In fact, we have the path across the creek on our property. And my wife Elaine and I are very much in favor of the path. We'd like to have it connected all around the community, and this will take us completely through Orange. I'd just like to mention that as an architect, and I've worked in several of the states and different cities in the United States, developing property with some of the well-known developers such as Forest City. And in every community now, it's actually required to have sidewalks on all of our projects. And it's required because they want the residents to be able to meet and have the accessibility instead of walking in the street. As what happens in Orangewood, we have everybody is walking in the streets and the little kids are riding their trikes and scooters in the streets, which of course is not safe. So I think safety is probably the number one issue, but the other is that it makes for a community, and we're very much in favor of it.
Thanks for your comments, Ron. Appreciate it. Always good to hear from you.
Good seeing you.
And if you'd call on Jamie Shore next.
Wait, I'm going to mute Ron. Hold on. Okay.
Thank you. I'm Jamie Shore. I live on Orangewood Drive as well. I've lived in the neighborhood for 31 years. I've been on the Orangewood Homeowners Board. I've been a former executive director of the Homeowners Association Board. I'm an avid bike rider. I'm a dog walker. I walk with my 80-year-old mom and I walk with my grandchildren. And over the 31 years, I have seen an incredible number of near misses, cars jamming on their brakes, children, animals hit, bikers almost hit, where the situation seems to be at its worst is vehicles are parked like a landscaping truck is parked in front of a home when they're doing it. So a biker has to pull out in the middle of the road now because there's not a trail. Cars may be coming from the other direction, but the road is not that wide. And when there's a car parked in the road, especially, it just creates an inherently dangerous situation that these trails will eliminate. And to me, it's not a question of if it's going to save a life, it's just a question of when. I live on Orangewood Drive, and again, I don't think it's definite where it's going to go. I would tell you if they choose to put it on my side, I would be honored to give up the land on our side to potentially save a life, improve the communities, connect the trails all over. But we could not be more in favor. We appreciate the creative way. Again, when I was on the Orangewood board, this came up more than any issue. Can the homeowners association build sidewalks? And of course, it couldn't. It's small. It's way beyond the financial means. This is an incredible way to give us an incredible amenity, save lives. And I can't even think of a logical reason against this. So thank you all.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Next is John Lewis. If you would unmute him and, just reminding everybody to, obviously we have your names, some of you here, but if you could also state your address, just so we know, where you're at, a little more specific than just Orangewood Drive or whatnot. Thanks. Anna, if you can unmute John Lewis, please.
I did. He should be there.
Okay.
Do you hear him?
I don't. So let's.
Wait, I'm going to ask him to unmute. Can you hear me?
Let's move on. We'll go back to him. So
Okay.
I actually feel like we lost a bunch of people. Um,
How about Dan Pelt?
yeah, let's do that. Dan Peltz. So if you can
Yes,
unmute him, please.
can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Dan Peltz. I live at 4009 Orangewood Drive. My part,
Oops, sorry, something happened. Wait a minute, we lost. 1 minute. Are you there?
We lost him.
It looks like he's muted now.
Do you see him?
Yes.
I'm back. Sorry about that.
Okay, sorry.
There
that
he is
was
then.
my fault. Okay.
I was just going to say, I live at 4009 Orangewood Drive, and my parcel would have the trail on it, but I welcome it. And I thank you for what you've done to consider it. And I think it would be great for all the little kids. And I just want to say thank you that I welcome it on my property, and you're doing a great job, and I hope it goes through.
Thank you. Thanks for your comments. Appreciate it. Let's go next to, is it Ellen Meyer?
I think John Lewis is unmuted. Can you call him?
John Lewis, are you there?
Says mute.
See?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I live on the Orangewood side that would be affected by this path. I think we bought this house 7.5 years ago. And one of the attraction was that there was no sidewalks, and we could landscape, and we have fixed up the yard, and we think it's beautiful. Secondly, and I'll address this.
John, if you could just state your address as well, so we have it.
28740.
Thank you.
I've sent letters to the mayor. I've talked to the mayor, and I also took a petition with Dan Bolden and myself on Saturday and Sunday to get people to sign. The majority of the people that we talked to were against having this trail on our side of the street. The safety issue, which has been brought up, I'd like to refer back to the fact this has been open for about 40 years. And as yet, there has been no pedestrian accidents. So when you look at the percentage of it, people who walk on Orangewood Drive live on the side streets. They can continue to walk on the side streets. If you think the cars go fast now, wait till there's no pedestrians around. Actually, the cars don't go very fast. I've never seen anything close to an accident. It's a non-issue. So I can't see having that done at all. I just think that this is being out of place. People who want it don't really live on the streets that are affected, the east and south sides. So I couldn't be more opposed to it, and I think it will devalue the property. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it. And if you'd unmute Ellen Meyer, please.
Did I just accidentally demote the mayor? Hold on, I screwed up. Helen Meyer, allowed to talk.
All
Hi,
right.
can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Hi, my name's Aileen Meyer.
I'm sorry, I
And
apologize.
Oh, I don't get it from that. It's Scandinavian, blame my parents. I live at 3950 Beachmont Trail. And first of all, I want to thank you all for the trails that are already installed. I use them almost every day. I have changed my entire life traveling around Orange Village with my dog almost every day, either by bike or by hiking. Even with the snow on the trails, I'm out there. They are a godsend. It makes Orange Village so accessible. Now, as far as safety I'm obviously totally for it for this neighborhood. We need it for this neighborhood. It's a huge safety issue. I walk every single day with my dog, daytime, nighttime. And I will tell you, more than one occasion, I've almost been hit. The worst being a couple months ago, where it's late at night, I'm walking a towards traffic. There isn't a living soul out there but me and my dog. We're wearing flashing lights and this car comes right at me. I had to dive off the street not to get hit. So when you say no accidents have happened, it's because some people are just diving off the street. There were no cars. There was no traffic. There was no reason for this guy to come right at me, but he did. And I was walking the correct way against traffic. I saw him and I dove off and pulled my dog with me. Otherwise, we would be having another conversation right now. I obviously wouldn't be here. Safety is a huge factor. There are kids in this neighborhood. There are dogs in this neighborhood, and we're all out there. If it went across my property, I'd be happy. I wouldn't care. I do live on the side street, but it's a huge factor. In addition, I've actually done some research, and I've read studies that say livability and movability is a huge factor in increasing property value. A trail through our neighborhood will, in fact, increase our property value, which is good for the people on Orangewood and everywhere in the neighborhood. So I can't say how much I want this trail, how much I'm so thrilled to live in Orange Village, how thrilled I am with the trails that exist, and that we're fools if we turn this down. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. And I'll just apologize again for everybody's name that I'm probably going to butcher. But Anna, if you can unmute Jody Tressler, please. Are you there?
Can you hear me?
It takes a minute for
Yep.
them to get it, so.
Okay, should I
Yep.
start over?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Okay, my name is Jody Trostler and I live at 3910 Wild Cherry Trail. We've been here almost 19 years. I am 100% in favor of these trails, and I'll piggyback off what Aileen said. I'm with my dog at least once or twice a day out on the streets, and we have both been hit. We have not been hit. We've been almost hit several times. Our neighborhood is also very dark in the evening, and there's often people walking around at night, walking their dogs. And unfortunately, I would say the majority of the people who are walking in the evenings are not wearing reflective gear, either for themselves or for their dogs. And I wish they would, but they don't. And so they are at a much higher risk also. So when I moved here from the Heights, and I ran with my daughter at the time was 2 years old, and I ran with her almost daily in a baby jogger. And when I moved to Orange, I didn't even realize that there weren't any sidewalks, and I pretty much had to give up running outside because I couldn't run outside with my child anymore in the streets. So I am thrilled for the younger parents of younger children. My kids are grown, so I really don't have to worry about that anymore. But it is just gonna, I'm just super excited about it. And these trails couldn't have obviously come at a better time. When COVID hit, it was just so awesome to see people using the sidewalks throughout the village. So thank you so much. It's just been a huge upgrade to the city that we already love. So I'm 100% in.
Great. Appreciate it. Thank you for your comments.
You're welcome.
If you unmute Debbie Arnold, please. You there?
Brandon, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, Brandon. Thank you for holding this meeting tonight. I think it's very valuable. My name is Debbie Arnold. I'm at 3948 East Ash Lane. And I have a couple comments, but also a couple questions. So first of all, well, the questions, which you can answer afterwards, and maybe this is for Mr. Mader, is if some of the residents are concerned about the amount, so we're looking at 5 feet off the curve and 5 feet of sidewalk, that's 10 feet into the property, even though it's right of way, it's still 10 feet. And so maybe some residents, based on where their houses are situated, maybe a corner lot or near the streams, feel that it might be too close. So I'd be curious to know what the alternatives would be to make some of these residents feel like people walking aren't intruding on their property. So can you do 4 feet or 3 feet off the curb and then make it a 4-foot wide path, trail? So that may be one thing. And then the second question that I have is if you all happen to know how much the number of developments in Orange Village without sidewalks. So you can respond to those after. We are definitely very much for. We've been residents here for 10 years. Many people may know that our particular block has many, many children. I can appreciate the comment that the gentleman made who's against the trails, that said that, why don't you, if you live on a side street, stay on your side street. The problem is that that doesn't resolve the issue that children want to play and bike ride and socialize and communicate with one another. So we're doing it in the middle of the street, which is not at all safe. The residents who are on those side streets do not appreciate it, will often speed by, put our kids in danger. So this actually allows those of us on side streets to have a safer way for our kids to go bike riding, to see friends in other ends of the development. I have seen over the last couple years a significant amount of new families with strollers who have moved into the homes here. And I am concerned for their safety. I walk the streets or run the streets every single day. I have had drivers play chicken with me. So you're right, I have not gotten hit. We don't have a situation of people getting hit in our development because those of us who are on the streets end up running out of the way, moving off to the sidewalk. I've had drivers flip me off. I recently saw a post on Nextdoor Neighbor of a resident who said, those of you who are in Orangewood, you're going to get hit. You have to move off the street. Well, there's nowhere else for us to walk, right? And so we're very for that. We see residents run stop signs all the time. I would also, Jody mentioned, I think it was Jody mentioned something about different scores. I know there's a walkability score, and I know that that's very effective in commercial and residential resale value. What I haven't been able to find is how that affects within a community and how it directly affects the resale value of our houses. So, you know, again, the questions would be, what are the options to make the people whose property they may feel these walkers are too close, and other developments in the village? Are we the only one and not? And then one last comment, I think the reason, you know, it's come up over all these years, and one of the speakers said, well, clearly it hasn't happened, so we don't need it, even though people want it. And I would beg to think that it was a cost thing, that maybe it was the fact that the homeowners would have to pay for it, or the village would have to pay for it. We're taking advantage of a negotiation that was done with the developers of Pinecrest. And I'm fearful that if we let this go, that there won't be any future opportunity to get funds at our disposal that we're not paying for, and we don't have to upkeep this. So thank you.
Thank you. I can just really quickly answer probably the development question. I believe the only developments without sidewalks are the Villas of Orange, Stonebrook, and Mayor, what's your development called? Sorry.
Glen. But we do.
Yes, Landerwood Glen, sorry.
We have ordinances on the
And I
books.
believe those are all private. Those aren't village public streets. And it's actually, just so you know, it is required in all new public developments, public streets that have developments, that sidewalks are required now. Brian, do you want to answer some of the other questions about the options, if any?
Yeah. With, as far as the offset of 5 feet, you know, we kind of chose 5 feet. The mayor kind of alluded to it at the beginning. The reason was so we didn't meander in and out around everything, around every mailbox. Is kind of an ideal spot, especially for the people with the front yard, because of the landscaping in particular around mailboxes and stuff. But as she did say, you know, we're willing to work with people. We've kind of held the policy that we don't want to get any closer than 3 feet off the back of curb. So we do have room to move it. Again, we're not trying to create the same winding, meandering path that we have throughout the rest of the village. It's more of a residential walk. So, I mean, we can, especially the side yards, it's long stretches if we moved it over. The other reason you don't want to move it too close is if in the future we do plow this, that's where all the snow goes from the road. You can't be right behind the curb. They would never be able to plow it or anything like that. But again, as the mayor alluded to, we're willing to talk to residents and work out, you know, what we can. As far as 5 feet, it's pretty much a standard walk width. It allows people to pass going opposite directions without stepping off the path. You know, I do know there's plenty of residents with sprinkler systems and stuff, so you don't want to be riding off. But again, we will be more than happy to work with people.
And the paths in the village are 6 feet in the other.
Correct.
All right. Thank you for that. I assume, does that answer all questions?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you for participating. Anna, if you would call on Rob Boroff, please.
He should be there. Call his name.
You there, Rob?
He's unmuted. I don't know. Should we go to next week, come back?
Okay, well, I guess mute him and we'll come back to him. So if you'll then go to, it says Jenna and Dan Konstantinovsky.
Do you see her?
Hello.
Okay.
Hello?
Okay. Jenna and Dan Konstantinovsky. We live at 4089 Orangewood Drive. So we are on the side that the trail affects. And we are very in this. We have 2 little children, and sidewalks would be so beneficial. We constantly are, you know, warning our children to stay away from the street. You would think that having baby pools and, you know, bicycles outside would warn drivers to slow down, that there's kids there, but I can promise you it doesn't. It's been such a pleasure living here. So to this to come up. And John was speaking, he mentioned that, you know, everyone on our side of the street is against it. And I feel like that was a sweeping generalization. I did not speak to him over the weekend, let alone I definitely didn't sign it. So I would not take that wholeheartedly that everyone on our side of the street does not want to see this happen. And that we're unity. And I think just enhance it so much and make it safer for the kids in our neighborhood.
Great. Thanks for your comments. We
to add other.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I don't know if I have much else to add, but beyond that, we see lots of other people that would probably enjoy walking their dogs in a much more able fashion than what's going on today. So in addition to the safety of the kids, we think that they're much broader to me. Well,
I'm being told that when you unmute somebody, Anna, that other person has to also unmute, and Rob Boroff is ready to be connected in.
We'll do him next. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenna and Dan. We appreciate your comments, and we can move on to Rob now. You there? Bueller? Rob, you there?
Into a panelist to see if I can get him, because I don't know why we can't see him or hear him.
He just posted in messages. Did you see that? Try me again when you have a chance.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Rob?
But he's on and everything, so I'm so confused. And he's not muted.
All right, well,
Okay.
I hate to do it, but sorry, Rob, we're gonna have to come back to you. We can go to Mr. Braverman.
Hold on.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yep.
Oh, that's great. Well, as you all know, I've lived in the community for 36
Herb,
years.
if you could state your name and address first, please.
Sorry. Herb Braverman, 3950 Orangewood Drive. And I've lived in the community for 36 years. And I agree with all those people who said that we need the recreational trails along Orangewood for all the reasons they stated. I just want to put the rest to rumor that the Orangewood Trail on Orangewood Drive, or the recreational trail on Orangewood Drive, would be known as Braverman Boulevard. That is not true. So if anybody objects to that, just tell them it's not true. It's not going to be called that. But I am in favor of the trail itself.
Thank you, Herb. Always good to hear from you. All right, moving next to Nancy Goffman.
Am I unmuted?
Oh, yep, you are not Nancy.
No, I'm not,
If you could
but
state
I'm
your
here
name and
with
address,
Nancy.
please.
Nancy,
Yes,
say hi.
that's fine.
It's Ira Goffman and Nancy Goffman, 3930 West Ash Lane. Live on the corner of Orangewood Drive and West Ash. We're actually located on the south side, so that the trail will go directly along the side of our home. I've heard everyone speak, and I listened to the mayor, and I question whether we're really respecting what everyone decided when they moved here. 219 people chose Orangewood for their homes. We did 35 or 36 years ago. Did not have sidewalks. Could have chosen any other development. Could have chosen Beechwood. Could have chosen anywhere we wanted to be. We chose where we lived and have lived. Raised 3 daughters here. Okay. It is by putting in sidewalks, or excuse me, recreational trails, you are not respecting the choices made by all 219 homeowners. They could have chosen somewhere, if that was important to them, they could have chosen a community that had that. They didn't. Next. When I looked at the development agreement for Pinecrest, what it talked about was recreational trails for major roads. Major roads. How is Orangewood a major road or anywhere similar to Harvard, Brainerd, Lander, Miles, Emory? It's not. This is a residential community with 219 homes. It isn't a major thoroughfare or a major street like that, like the ones I named. Jackson is more of a major street than Orangewood. I've lived here for 36 years. I don't want anyone to, to be hurt by anything going on. I don't think safety has been an issue here. I heard Jamie Shore, I heard everyone else, okay? Everyone has their opinion. Most people, to the extent they can with kids, play on the side streets, on West Ash, East Ash, Meadows, White Oak. They don't spend, or the kids don't spend their time playing in the streets on Orangewood Drive. It isn't necessary. So for one more thing, when the law director says that we won't have any liability, to the extent that we are named in a lawsuit because someone slips on the property next in front of our house on the recreational trail or on the side of our house with the recreational trail, we will have to incur expenses to hire a lawyer to defend what's going on. Or if it's claimed by our insurance carrier, our insurance will likely go up because they have to defend it. Now, I am not suggesting that the city or the village won't be responsible for it, but I know that there will be costs incurred to the extent that that happens to residents. I haven't heard about maintenance of the trails. Maybe I missed it. That they will be maintained throughout.
They will be maintained
okay.
by the village. Just to answer that.
And the cost to fix up landscaping or trees that are going to be removed, or I haven't heard whether that anything was going to be done there. What I did hear, I thought, was sprinklers you would work with, but I didn't hear the regarding landscaping.
Absolutely, with landscaping. You don't have much along the side where the trail's going, but we absolutely will work with each homeowner with landscaping that we are affecting.
Okay. Well, for the reasons I've already stated, I don't believe the trails are needed. And I, what?
It's not a major thoroughfare.
Yeah, it's not a major thoroughfare like Brainerd, Harvard, and Lander, and it's not needed in here. Thank you.
Steve, do you have anything to say about the legal point?
Yeah, I think the fact that the Orangewood Drive connects Lander Road to Harvard Road, council has it within its authority to say, hey, that is a major roadway, particularly given the number of residents that live in that subdivision. The other issue is, the village has designated these as recreational trails. There is a statute under the Ohio Revised Code which exempts property owners from liability. So please consult, everyone should consult, if they're concerned about the liability issue, they should consult with their insurance carrier. Right now, if you have somebody walking on your property outside of the right of way to avoid traffic, there may be some risk that they could trip in a hole. Probably more traffic going on a trail, but in terms of liability risk, I would say it's less of a risk than currently exists for being found liable for anything.
Thank you, but I would respectfully disagree as to what I was saying. It isn't the liability, it's the cost of defending, okay? That is what I'm talking about.
If you have homeowners insurance and you are named in a lawsuit for property liability, your insurance company will defend and indemnify you.
And the cost of your insurance will increase.
Well, I don't know what your claims experience is. That's a technical question that would need to be addressed by an insurance person. I'm not an actuary. I can't answer that question. I would recommend anybody who's concerned about the liability issue to talk to their insurance agent to get the information rather than just speculating that costs will go up.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Mr. Goffman, Mrs. Goffman. Appreciate your comments, and we will take note of that. Anna, if you then, looks like Robbie Boroff has given into Jen, so let's try Jen Boroff.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
There we go. All right, how many computers or Boroffs does it take to get onto the village council meeting? Thank you very much for the opportunity just to say a few words. I got to tell you, I'm kind of in the Bermuda Triangle of Orangewood, or right in a position, I guess I should say my address, it's 4000 Orangewood Drive. I'm located right near Hemlock Circle, just a house or two away from the stop sign, the notorious stop sign that no one seems to recognize or know exists. And I can tell you that living on Orangewood Drive in that particular area, it sure feels like a thoroughway to me. I can't tell you how many times I'm either walking my dog, walking with my 3-year-old, walking with my 5-year-old, trying to teach them how to ride their bike, and just having to deal with the traffic, the cars that come by, whether they're not stopping or going well above the speed limit. I echo a lot of what the others have said previously. I don't need to repeat it, but this is certainly a safety issue. And that's what we should be focusing on, as opposed to, in my opinion, landscaping. While I purchased my house knowing that there was no trails located along Orangewood Drive, it was certainly my hope that one day there would be. And I think one of the reasons why I did purchase within Orangewood, other than the fact that it's just a great neighborhood, was the understanding that there might be trails up ahead. And so I think this would just be a great opportunity for our community, for the children that live in the community, for all of the people, whether they have children or not, to walk through our community, to connect to the playground, to the fields, to get to Harvard, to get to Lander, if that becomes trails as well along there. But I'm very much in favor of it, and I think from a safety perspective, this would just be fantastic.
Great, thank you for your comments, appreciate it. Moving down, I'm going to butcher this name and I apologize in advance. Yaz Gim.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yep, we can.
Okay, great. This is Derek Moon. I'm at 3910 Beachmont Trail. And just wanted to say I do a lot of running in the neighborhood and jogging in the neighborhood. And that main street, it absolutely does feel like a primary road. There's a lot of traffic that comes through. There's a lot of trucks. I've had to make hand signals to some drivers passing by because they were just going too fast, so I run with my son a good bit. There's a lot of other teenagers that jog in the neighborhood, and people walking with little ones, and there's absolutely a safety issue there. So just wanted to say that I'm definitely for the trail. I sympathize somewhat with some of the homeowners that would directly be in the trail, but I really do think that over the long term, it will increase property values for the neighborhood overall, for all homes. So I'm definitely for it. My wife is for it as well. So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Great, thank you for your comments, appreciate it. We could go next to Rivka Claypool.
Because Rivka's using an older bridge. I have to, okay, hold on. Oh.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can see
Yes.
you too, Rivka.
Oh, okay. You need to pay attention to that then. I guess so. My name is Rivka Claypool. I live at 29599 Orangewood Drive, which is on the main strip there, but it is on the north side. And I've lived here for almost 15 years. And I'll say for all of those 15 years, I have been hoping and wanting and asking for some sort of trail or sidewalk. So that is definitely one of the things that I think would enhance our neighborhood. Not only that, but this is a golden opportunity right now. And for us to do anything but take advantage of this chance to have it done, I think would be not a wise thing to do. But I also want to say, so I have 4 children. Their ages 4 to 16, and some of them are little and want to be able to walk or ride their bikes. My older ones like to run, and it's scary to let them go out there. So we are on the main strip. My kids are on the main strip of Orangewood, and if there was a trail for them, it would be much easier for them to be able to go see their friends. And for the age appropriate ones, I would feel more comfortable sending them on their way. But I will go out and walk with my kids, and there's cars. They do not slow down. They do not pull over. I've had them pass me going over 20 miles an hour between 2 and 3 feet away from me. And my daughter's much smaller. And there's times when I've felt the need where I needed to get really big and move farther into the street just so that people would see me and slow down. And there's lots of times where, as you've heard earlier, where you feel like you need to ditch out of the way. And especially with the younger kids, they're not looking. So it's, and someone earlier mentioned one of the conversations that happened on the Nextdoor app, and it really was, it's our road, we're in cars, you need to get out of the way. And so that mentality to me is very scary, and I've also seen it. So having these roads here, having a trail will definitely make the roads safer. It will make it safer for our children. It'll make it a much more friendlier neighborhood. And like I said, I don't have a dog, I don't have anything, I just go out and walk. And they come very close and do not slow down. So this is a very important thing that would be to add to our neighborhood. And I think, like I said, it's a great opportunity. Thanks.
Great. Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it. And if you call on, it says Robbie next, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, this is Robbie Scharfeld. I live at 4069 Orangewood Drive. We're about 6 houses in, closer to Harvard Road, right on the curve there, and we see cars flying by all the time. We have a little daughter that we go on walks with all the time, and we've actually had issues where we can't get up onto other people's grass or the driveways quick enough, and almost have the stroller knocked over because it just would have hit the curb, or as cars just sped past us, just disregarding our safety. We are completely for the sidewalks. What else? Oh, I have a relative that actually lived in a neighborhood that didn't have sidewalks, and he was walking down the street, got hit by a car, wound up where his body went into the gutter, his shoes went across the street, and he was in crutches for a couple months with a broken leg. So, I don't want another family member to have that happen to. We moved in within the last year, and we were told that there would be some prospects of actually getting a trail put in the neighborhood. So, we see our backyard butts up to the trail that goes to the park, and we love that it was a gravel pathway and then it was paved, and we could use our stroller. We see kids every day riding their bikes. I saw a gentleman walking his 2 dogs today in the snow. So the trail still gets used. So yeah, we're just completely for it, and very flabbergasted that people can be somewhat selfish and think only towards themselves and not for the greater good for the community and the safety of everybody, so yeah, that's it.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your comments. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And let's then go to David Schoenberg. Anna.
Hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
I live at 3830 Wild Cherry Oval, and I just wanted to add the comment, that was mentioned earlier, or follow up on the comment where it was Dr. Goffman or Mr. Goffman said that he thinks that everyone here chose this neighborhood for how it is. And I just really have to disagree with that. I think we chose this neighborhood in spite of there being sidewalks. And truthfully, if you look across we wanted to be in orange schools. So it's pretty simple. We wanted to live in a neighborhood and we wanted to be in orange schools. And so the options were limited as in terms of there being a real neighborhood feel. And this was the most affordable neighborhood. So yeah, I would have loved to be able to buy a house in Orange Hill or Orange Tree, but we couldn't afford those homes at that time. So that idea that this is what we wanted is such a, I can't stand that comment, because this isn't, we wanted a neighborhood with sidewalks, but we couldn't find a house that we could afford at that time. And I think a lot of people feel that way. And the other comment I'll make along with that is, we knew that there was flooding issues in this neighborhood. There's flooding issues in our backyard. That doesn't mean that if somebody could fix it, that I would say, oh no, let's not improve the flooding issue right now. So I think to be able to think beyond the, yes, it's been, maybe that's the way it's been, but that doesn't mean that we can't have, improvements along the way. And I'm also a runner. I've been scuffed by a car. Just this week, I was at the corner of Orangewood and in Wild Cherry Oval. There is a police car at the stop sign, and the car coming the other direction did not even slow down, went right through the stop sign. And the police officer did not even do anything. The police officer kept on going. So if that's the way it's going to be, and that was a resident of this neighborhood, I know exactly who that was. So if that is how things are going to be, where there is no really, sticking to, obeying the stop signs, and we all, those of us who have, even if we don't have young children, those of us who just want to be able to be on these roads, it's just a matter of time. I know of another family in another neighborhood, just like the gentleman just explained before, who got injured. I know a child who has brain injury from not being on from being in a road. So, I hate for that to happen to anyone here. I think that if we're worried about lawsuits, fortunately, thank God this hasn't happened yet. But if somebody did get in an accident here, that would be a big lawsuit as well. So I think we need to hopefully try to look at this as an improvement. And I certainly respect that, those who are feeling like this could be infringing on their property. But I do think that, the fact is that out of all the main real neighborhoods in Orange, when I go for a run in some of these other neighborhoods, I feel safer when I'm on those sidewalks. I feel safer. Our children are able to be on those sidewalks. And I certainly just really find offense with saying that we chose this neighborhood as is. We chose this neighborhood because we didn't have another choice. And we were like some others have said as well, we hope that there could be the idea of being sidewalks. And now that this is actually being offered as a free service, the idea that we turn this down now, that would speak volumes. So I think if that were to happen, to really I believe that this would never happen again. We wouldn't have this chance. So I think that, again, I just really believe that we chose this neighborhood in spite of there being sidewalks, not because we liked it exactly as is. And it's a beautiful neighborhood, but it was certainly in spite of there being sidewalks.
Thank you for your comments. I appreciate it. Anna, if you'd call on Russ, I assume it's Russ Rogers there.
Hello, all, council, mayor. I've lived in Orangewood for over 13 years. I've been on the homeowners association board for 12 of those years.
Russ, would you just state your name and address?
Sure, Russ Rogers, 3941 White Oak Trail. Sorry, Brandon. Over the years, we've done several, what I would say, wonderful improvement projects for the development that's been well received by the community. And we've always had an opportunity to have the residents make known to the board members what projects they'd like to have. And I'd have to say that sidewalks has always been one that's been brought up by numerous residents. And, you know, for the budget we have, it's cost prohibitive for the homeowners to subsidize it or to have some sort of an assessment. So it's really not something we couldn't do. And then when this opportunity came along where the village, and I'm assuming maybe some monies from Pinecrest, we're gonna obviously absorb this huge expense, was something I think that we as the residents in this development couldn't pass up this opportunity. So I'm in favor of the sidewalk project or the trails. I understand there's some concern, some of the residents that are on Orangewood Drive, that some of their property, or at least the property that's owned by the city or the right of way, would be obviously affected, but I'm assuming they'll use their best efforts to make it not as intrusive on their properties as they develop the sidewalk. So I'm in favor, and I hopefully this project goes through.
Thanks for your comments, Russ. Let's move to Dan Bonder.
Hello?
Yep, you're there.
Okay, good. So I've been a resident now for almost 30 years on Orangewood. I live at 4119 Orangewood, on the side of the street where the trails would be built. I was a member of the homeowners association board for many years early on when we were here. I respect the opinions of people who have concerns about safety. We raised 3 active boys here. Never had an incident with any of them. We've walked our dog along the street, never had an incident. But it sounds like the issues that people are raising is more of an enforcement issue than it is an issue of should there be trails. It's almost like we're saying, okay, let's throw up our hands. We can't stop speeders. We can't stop people from ignoring the laws. We can't stop people from running stop signs. So let's just build a trail across people's property so that we can let the people continue to speed and continue to go through stop signs. That's still going to be a problem. I can tell you I've seen a lot of people who on the main streets where there are now trails still walking in the street, riding in the street. And my question is that will people be ticketed for when the trails are clear for walking in the street or even riding in the street? But for walking in the street, if the whole purpose is for safety, and we're not going to ticket speeders, and we're not going to ticket people who run stop signs, then we maybe should be ticketing the people who are getting in their way, which are the pedestrians. So if we're building the trails, then we need to decide, are we going to require people to use the trails? Let's see. You know, I certainly am concerned for people and their children. Again, we raised 3 children here, didn't have a problem with it. We've chosen, and maybe I did this incorrectly, but chosen to walk across people's lawns rather than in the street. And nobody's come out and said to me, don't do that. And I certainly don't mind when people walk across my lawn if they don't want to walk in the street. But anyway, that's how I feel about it. I would rather not have the trails, but if they're going to go in, then I think we need to still take a look at safety on the street with speeders and people who ignore stop signs. and people not using.
Thank you. And I can tell you that the speeding and the safety, that is a separate issue in terms of something that the village has dealt with and will continue to deal with. And we will, I know that I'll reach back out to the police chief. I know this isn't a, I guess, isolated incident. There's been issues in the past, and that's something that the village will do. We'll look at again, irrespective of the trail issue. So, but I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
I'd just like to add that for the residents who are, we come out, it's the residents then that are violating the rules and getting the tickets, which is a different problem too.
All right, thank you. Let's move on to Meredith Glazer.
Hi, Meredith Glazer, 3990 West Ash Lane. I just wanted to come out in favor of the trails. I agree with a lot of the things that people said. I know there's 219 homes here, but I don't believe that 219 people chose to live without sidewalks. I know that I've been here for 17 years, and there's been discussion of sidewalks for 17 years. People have been saying, we want them, we want them. And I also agree that at the time we bought our house 17 years ago, we looked in Orange Tree, we looked in Orange Hill, and there just wasn't an option. So we did want to be in a neighborhood, and I think the trails will be great. I also know I have 3 kids, 12 to 16, so they're older. But I know a lot of people at the schools, and I know a lot of people who cut through Orangewood in the mornings to get from Brainerd to Lander, from Harvard to Lander, because they don't want to go all the way down Harvard the traffic's not so bad right now, but prior to the pandemic, Lander would be backed up beyond belief for anyone who would drive to Lander Circle at around 8:30 in the morning when school was in session. And I know lots and lots of people who live in Orange Tree that cut through Orangewood. So I do think it is a thoroughfare. I do think it is a major road. I think a lot of people use it. And I think a lot more people use that than they use Jackson from Brainerd to Lander, because Jackson is so narrow. So anyways, I just want to come out in favor of it. I think it would be great for the neighborhood. I think it would raise our property values. And I like to walk, and I would love to have trails to walk on in Orangewood. Thank you.
Thank you. And let's see here. Sorry. Ms. Meyer, you're back. I think your hand is still up there for another comment. If you, Anna, if you would unmute her, please.
Hi, Aileen Meyer again. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I didn't know I get to talk again. I thought I lowered my hand. But since I've been listening, I would just like to make a few quick comments. I have been using the trails since they've gone in. I've been all around Orange, and I have, I know there's some bikers out on the road, but they're serious bikers. The rest of us who bike for recreation are on the trail, and it's wonderful. It's legal to bike on the road, so I don't think that should be an issue at all. But I would like to go back to, frankly, the points that have been made. I like the point where someone said, don't be selfish, it's for the greater good. And the greater good is safety. I will say I have a 17-year-old, and I don't take her with me. I didn't take her with me when we moved here when she was 7, and I don't take her with me now because I'm still too concerned. And now that she's taken up running, I worry about her. She does the loop. If you leave my house and you do the trails that are on Lander, on Harvard, and then back through the neighborhood, it's exactly a 2-mile route. And where I worry about her is no longer on Lander, it's no longer on Harvard, it's in our own neighborhood. She's 17, she's a full-grown person, she's running on the, towards traffic, and they still worry about her every time she goes out. I think anyone who has kids, no matter how big they are, worry about them. When I go out, I know I'm in charge of my own safety, and I've already had incidences. But when she goes out, I can't protect her. And these trails will go towards protecting our children, protecting us and our children and future children. It just seems like it's the logical thing to do. And when it doesn't come out of our pocketbook, it's even better. So I thank you for the opportunity to talk again.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. It looks like there's somebody with a phone number 216-924-1530 who has their hand up. If you want to. Unmute that, Anna.
Hello.
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 Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. My name is Joan Klaus. I live at 4019 Orangewood for 27 years. And I did not think that the city would ever get sidewalks. When my kids were little, I wanted them. And now that they're grown, I don't want them. And there's a lot of safety issues involved. If you were, somebody suggested making the tree lawn narrower and the sidewalk a little bit narrower, and that means it's closer to the street. If a child falls off a bike, like the way suburbs are in Chicago, they literally can fall into the street in their time. It depends on the age and how tall the child is, but it is a danger. As the ground settles with the sidewalk, it becomes a little bit of an incline, and then they roll over even more. So I don't think that's an answer. I don't know if any of you have put in your own driveway or sidewalks in front of your house. I don't know what the thickness is here, if anyone has checked that. I didn't see them curing the cement, which all brings us down to maintenance where it's going to crack easier. And I know Kathy had said, yeah, the city will pay for it, but they don't. And that's a false promise, I'm sorry to say. In the winter, the snowplow knocked over our mailbox. It took an entire summer and part of fall to get that straight. Nobody at City Hall helped out. Nobody offered an inch. I had to go through, I think it was Shore something, Cable Shore, something Shore. And they had all the utility places come out twice, and they said if this ever goes again, it cannot be replaced because of all the lines. Nobody really knew the answer. Even though they dug down, they couldn't give me a straight answer. So I worry about that. And, the city does not come in to repair that. And the curving part of the new sidewalks is so hideous, but it's more than that. It's distracting to driving. And I'm not the only one that has said that. I feel it. And when you see the little toddlers riding their bikes, maybe they're older than toddlers, and they have to follow that curve, that's when they fall off, when they hit a curve in the sidewalk. I saw it happen on Brainerd, where a kid could not make that curve, and they just fell off. And unfortunately, he wasn't even wearing a helmet. So there's a lot of issues going on with that. If you do put this path in, you're asking for people to drive and walk from Pinecrest. You're bringing strangers into our neighborhood, and then they turn around in our driveways. That endangers our kids. My kids are grown up, but my grandson was here all summer, and we didn't use any of the trails. They weren't safe. So people following the path and coming into your neighborhood eliminates your privacy, your safety. You have drunk drivers from the bars at nighttime. So that's a safety issue, but the winding of those sidewalks are terrible. Do any of you know the thickness that's required on the sidewalks? Now, I know I didn't know these were called trails until I joined the conversation. Does anybody know
Brian?
the thickness? Did anybody oversee this from City Hall?
Excuse me, Joni, we oversee everything and we take care of everything. If you have a complaint that they get responded to, let us know. We'll take care of it. And the
But
thickness,
you
Brian?
don't. That's my point. So
The
do any
thickness-
of you know the thickness of these trails? Or
Yes, the thickness of all the trails are 4 inches thick with 2 inches of stone underneath them. All the drive aprons that have been replaced go back in at 6 inches thick, which is usually thicker than any contract rule for the driveway. They're usually only 4. We put back 6 on 6 inches of stone.
And is there rebar in it?
There's our trails actually have fiber mesh in them. It doesn't have steel.
Okay. All right. Well, I am against it, as you can tell, for many reasons. And after hearing about it, we saw the markers put in our driveway and all up and down the street. We didn't get to vote on it. You were already in gear. Seems like you're already in gear now to go forward with this. This is like.
Well, it
the
hasn't been
two
voted
keys
on
to
yet. That's
community.
why we're having this tonight.
Tony, the stakes were put in so the residents could see what we're talking about. That is not going forward on the product. That was helping you visualize. We did that as a courtesy and it cost, money to do it.
I'm sure it did. But
so we put that
we
in so
weren't
you could
given a vote
visualize.
Well, I don't need a visualization.
Listen, other people did. They asked for it.
Okay. All right. It just seemed like you were prepared and went forward with doing it pretty fast. So I just
again,
think that the winding
this was for your
is a
sake.
terrible distraction. Besides, it's an ugly sight, the winding sidewalks.
Okay.
And those are my thoughts.
Thank you for your comments. We appreciate it. Take note.
Okay.
Anna, if you'd go next to Lee Friedman, please.
Hello?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
He has two things on. That's
Yeah.
why.
Yeah, do you have 2 devices
Turn one
on?
off.
Gotta turn one of them off.
Is it better now?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Lee Friedman, 4109 Orangewood. 2 houses in from Harvard. I've been here over 30 years. And part of my issue is, as I wrote to Kathy, service issues. On this side of the street, you have fire hydrants as well. So my house has a lot of utilities on it, cable box. I don't even know what they all are. Cable boxes, some towers for, I don't know what they are, but I also have a fire hydrant. Makes, even now, my snow removal and where to pile snow is a disaster. Only dealing with these trails and not being able to pile snow up on the side of the street or side of the driveway is going to be an additional problem. I don't know what you do with that. I don't know how many other houses are affected with the fire hydrants in the same situation. So that's one concern. I do take somewhat of offense for all these people that are saying, it's selfish and, we're all for it, but it's really not affecting them. And of your early respondents, you had, I think 70% of the people who actually lived in houses that were affected by the trail were against it. I would really think you should entertain, maybe it's indicative of just this side of the street, but maybe you should entertain the thoughts of putting the paths on the other side and maybe do a survey and see if you get a different percentage as far as acceptance. To see if the other side is any different. Okay, but I just think you should give some thought to that idea, because it is intrusive. It does change a lot of things. It's and it's really, maybe if I lived on the other streets, I would be more in favor of it than I am now. So I just think you should give consideration to maybe thinking about the other side of the street.
Lee, I'm going to have Brian Mader if he's looking at the plans, but we'll come out. We'll talk to you directly if this goes forward. obviously he saw the right of way and what's there, so it looks like he's going to answer. But Lee, the odds, the percentages were more 50-50, not 70-30.
Well, no, you gave, I mean, just going on what you said before, you had, five respondents that were again for it and 12 that were.
Yeah, I mean, we
for
don't
it.
need to go percentages. I mean,
Right, no,
it's
I'm
noted
just-
everybody's comments, and definitely understand your concerns, and that's something that we're going to take into consideration. If we do go forward or don't go forward.
Brian, do you have an answer for that address?
In regards to what question?
All the utilities and cable boxes and hydrants in the way.
Well, I mean,
why don't we do that offline another time, Mayor?
Lee, we'll talk to you depending what council decides.
Okay. I think maybe also it would be helpful if you did do a survey, whether it be for this proposed side or maybe the other side, to instead of just waiting for responses to come in, to actually do a survey and see what kind of responses you get.
I think there's a significant cost issue, and I'll let Brian probably answer that. But if it was done on the other side, because of probably at least double the amount of driveway aprons and whatnot, and other matters. Brian, is that something you want to?
Well, and the mayor kind of alluded to it at the beginning in regards to the 12 side yards up by the Lander end. You only have 2 aprons there, and it provides direct access to all those roads without crossing Orangewood to access the path. All at Wild Cherry, at Beachmont, you have a 4-way intersection with stop signs for the people from the north to be able to access across to the south off of the side streets. Whereas if we put it on the north side, everybody on the east and west, the Meadows, White Oak, East and West Ash, there's no stop signs there to cross over to access the path. So that is one of the safety concerns that we took and why we chose one side over the other.
All right, I understand that, but you're talking about safety concerns with crossing the street as opposed to having paths throughout. I mean, it's less, maybe a lesser of 2 issues kind of thing, that maybe a path, but crossing the street is better than no path at all. So it's something to consider. I do want to say that when our apron was replaced, when they redid the roads, I forget how long ago it was, and when they did that, those new aprons cracked. I just happened to have my whole driveway redone, and really did it to whatever our specifications were, and hoped that it wouldn't crack. But if something was done where they had to rip up our aprons again, if it was done the way it was before, they did crack afterwards.
All right. Thank you for your comments. We'll definitely take note of everything you discussed. So I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to Peter Turner.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
If you could speak a little louder, that'd be helpful.
My name's Peter Turner, 3990 Beachmont Trail. And thank you all for taking the time this evening for this. It's been very informative. And my wife and I have been listening very carefully to all the comments. We strongly support installation of the trails. And where we live, now this is a homeowner association, but right next to us, there was a trail installed so that people could get back to the common area walkway to get to tennis courts and the playground. And when that was first proposed, I had some concerns about it because it goes right along near the side of my house through the woods. But I can tell you that it's a wonderful thing. And the neighborhood appreciates it, and it gives easy access. And we sort of see these trails that are going to be installed, if they are similar to that. We welcome the improvement to the neighborhood. We have grandchildren who we have over frequently. And they're getting to the, we've had to walk them in the street frequently. And if we had trails, that would be much preferred. I am not at all impressed or concerned about liability issues. I listened to those comments, and the law director is absolutely right that everybody's got homeowners insurance, and the chances of an incident on one of these trails in the front of your house are pretty slim. So I mean, that's the reason you have insurance. So with that, again, we strongly support installation of the trails. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for your comments. If you could call on Barb Freeman, please. Hannah.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I want to reiterate what my husband was saying about like looking at the other side of the street. I think you poo-pooed it a little bit by saying that it was too expensive or that the connecting roads, and it really is something that you should take into. I know that you have a timeline in which to spend this money, and maybe that's a reason why you're not taking the time to maybe investigate or taking a survey as to the other side of the street. Pardon?
That's not a consideration.
What is it?
The timeline.
Well, is there a certain time that you have to spend the money?
That's more of a
We're
mayor
trying to
question.
finish it up and have the assessment on the developer by September. We could go another year if we need to.
So if you're hearing resistance from the south side and you're hearing people upset, clearly, like our house does not have a big front yard. So by taking up a significant difference, you're in my front yard, you're in my front window. So my privacy is lost. And it's a big deal, like, and you're coming in from Harvard and Brainerd, and it's a security thing and a privacy thing that I'm losing. And so I'm saying, and I'm listening to this, it's 10 o'clock and I'm a quarter to 10, and I've listened to everybody talk. And the majority of the people that want it, and I respect that, are people that are off the streets. I am a walker, Kathy, you even said I'm a walker all the time. I've lived here 37 years. I raised 2 adult children. I have 2 grandchildren. So I'm with you all. Everybody that wants it that are off streets, okay, great. So I get it. Put it on the other side of the street. Let them and see how happy they are. And then let's revisit this then. Because if everybody's happy on the other side of the street, then we won't have a conversation. We'll have your trails and everybody will have it on the other side of the street, and this conversation will be null and void.
It won't be unanimous on any side of any street.
Well, then maybe there's an issue then. Maybe there's a real problem. I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want to lose my driveway that we just put in that was done to our class, I don't want to lose my privacy. I don't want to lose my grass. Like Ira did say, I chose to live here, and people that say they didn't choose to live here, that they could have lived anywhere else. It's a choice, whether you can afford it or not afford it. You can live wherever you want. It's a choice. I chose to live here. I knew they didn't have sidewalks. My kids grew up here, and I don't want sidewalks, period. You want to have them on the other side of the street, so be it. I don't want them on the south side of the street.
Thank you for your comments. Definitely noted. And we will take that into consideration. Russ, you have another comment?
I do. I've been listening as well. I'm sorry, I joined in late, but I understand those that have concerns that live on Orangewood Drive. And I believe the city, in doing their survey and the study of where this sidewalk or this trail is going to be going, is trying to make it minimal invasive on the homes that are on Orangewood Drive. And I believe going from Lander, I don't think many homes are affected until you get up to about Meadow, or even up to my street, which is White Oak. And I understand there are a few homes that will have sidewalks going along the side of their homes. I understand the safety issue, or concerned about this being a pathway for outsiders to enter our development. there's no gated community here. If they're going to access our development, they're going to walk down the street. I do fully understand the concern with safety. When I bought my home, like I said, 13 years ago, my children were very young. I bought off of Orangewood Drive onto a cul-de-sac street just because there weren't sidewalks and I wanted my children to play. And having a sidewalk would have been great, but living in a cul-de-sac development or side street made it a little bit less concerned about the traffic that went down Orangewood Drive. The traffic count, I'm sure, has increased since Pinecrest has gone up. And I'm one that travels obviously every day to go to work, as many others do. And constantly there's more people walking, maybe because of the pandemic, people are getting out. And I'm seeing more people walking, not in a straight line, but 2-3 people with, and you're dodging people. I really think it's become a safety issue. And the sidewalk is something that has worked in all the communities throughout the world, obviously, or even our country, or throughout the US, but here in Cleveland, and even in Orange, we see it works in Orange Tree and Orange Hill, the other 2 major developments in Orange Village. And this would be something I think would be a positive impact to Orangewood. And I'm using my credentials as a realtor and recognize it would not decrease the value, but definitely would enhance the value of the homes in Orangewood, not just on Orangewood Drive, but throughout the whole development. And I think we need to talk as a community versus just the few homes that would feel they're going to have an adverse effect with the sidewalk. Still in support of the sidewalk.
Thank you, Russ. I don't see any other comments, any other hand raises. If somebody else has something, I'll give you a second. Oh, wait, there we go. Nancy Zimmerman.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I just would like some clarification.
If you could state your name and address, please.
Nancy Zimmerman, I live at 3988 West Meadow Lane. Can you clarify, you guys, we built these beautiful paths all over the city that have been a wonderful addition to our community. Was this the same conversation that you had with all of the people who lived on all of those streets about
For
whether
decades. For
and-
decades, Nancy. Yes, for decades and decades.
So you had this same kind of conversation. I mean, we've been having this I've lived here for 20 years. And I've been waiting for these paths or these sidewalks to come. I feel like I'm in danger every time I go out to walk, which I do sometimes 3 times a day with my dog. And we're a community here, and I feel like we need to support each other in that kind of way, whether it affects our home or whether it affects our neighbors' homes. I think being a community and being part of the entire Orange community is really important. And if people think that Orangewood is not a thoroughfare, they are sadly mistaken at this point. There is just as much traffic on Orangewood, more traffic on Orangewood than there's ever been before, especially cutting through to Pinecrest. And, I just wanted to, just express my support for these paths to go through Orangewood, not just as a safety issue, but as a community issue that, we're proud to, my husband and I are proud to live here. We're proud of the things that have happened in the community in the last 20 years. And I know a lot of people who would love to live in Orangewood, but have, like Russ said, who've made that choice not to live here because of the sidewalks. So it can't be anything but good for the community.
Nancy, I could just tell you that I know that that we went, the mayor, myself, to many, and then Bob Zug and Brian Mader went to literally every house that was affected with the trails around the village and talked to every single homeowner, so that the village can could do what they the best they could in order to satisfy the homeowner when we put the trails on the property, even if it was a homeowner who wasn't in favor. And I could tell you that a lot of those even who weren't in favor previously are very satisfied with especially how the village handled it and making sure that the village took care of the residents as best as possible. So
Let me add to Nancy that we have been having these debates, these town hall meetings, these, I don't want to say arguments, but these conflicting opinions on trails for decades.
my older brother came to village council like 35 years ago and was proposing them in Orangewood. So not that that has anything to do with my opinion, but it's been going on for a long time. Anyways, I don't see any other hands raised. Is there anybody else who, if so, speak now? Okay, well, I don't see anyone else. So I definitely, I know that I appreciate everybody's comments. I know the mayor appreciates everybody's comments and everybody else on council and the other village officials. You know, we appreciate everybody. I know this is late at night. We appreciate everybody participating. Mayor, do you have any comments that you would like to make?
I would just say that if anybody's frustrated or doesn't feel they got their questions answered or has more to say, I'm available and accessible, and we can talk about it some more.
All right. Well, again, I want to thank everybody for participating tonight. And with that said, we will adjourn the council meeting. And thanks and have a good night.
Thank you, Brandon. Nice job.